Hey everyone, I'm Steve from GamersNexus.net, and today we're looking at Logitech's G633 gaming headset. There are two versions of this headset. The Artemis Spectrum is the brand, and then there's the G633 and G933. This is the 633. It is wired. The G933 is a wireless headset. It's got some other features, but all in all, it's the same idea, same base package, just some interface changes. So we're reviewing the G633 here today. We previously looked at both of these headsets in our tour to Logitech's audio engineering facility, and you can see that content already live on the channel and on the website, posted about a month ago now. So that talks about the design and engineering process for the G633 and for headsets in general. But today we're reviewing it, reviewing how it feels, how it sounds, things like that. The big underlying feature of the G633 is its Pro G driver, which is a Logitech made driver. It is 40 millimeters in diameter, and the item that differentiates it here is the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is the material covering the driver, and it's the material through which the sound is transmitted. That material impacts the audio quality, it impacts the endurance of the driver, so it's critical to get it correct. And what Logitech's done is basically take a series of materials and they've woven it into a mesh. And that makes a thinner diaphragm more durable. So you're getting the thinness desired to allow for greater sound quality, but you're not theoretically not sacrificing endurance. So that's the Pro G driver. We looked at it extensively in the previous post, but that's what's in here. You've got two drivers, one per ear in the G633 and G933. And then it uses Dolby Digital Surround and DTS for simulation of more advanced surround sound setups. The headset has 4 G keys on the left ear cup, accompanied by a volume roller and a stowaway mic. The mic automatically mutes when you push it up, but the mic provides the user with an audible blip and a red LED change to confirm that it's muted. Speaking of LEDs, the headset has RGB LED support for the usual millions of colors. RGB LEDs can be cycled in various states, so that's breathing or cycling colors or just solid, and they're controlled through Logitech software, which we'll call LGS, Logitech Gaming Software. The cable is fully detachable, and Logitech includes a micro USB to USB PC cable or a 3.5 millimeter cable for phones. The headset has to be toggled for phone use. The biggest item on the spec sheet here is probably DTS Headphone X, which is a technology made by the company DTS, and Dolby Digital Surround, which is a perhaps more familiar name to those of you who have been to any sort of movie theater or something like that. So both of these simulate surround in the headset. It goes up to 7.1 channels, and that helps you with positional audio. So it's got front, left, and right, speakers in the corners, side speakers, back, left, and right, forward, back, things like that. But first, let's jump into the review content with the comfort, and then we'll go into gaming and music. So those are our two main categories outside of comfort for headset reviews. And for the G633, Logitech's big marketing point that they told all of us reviewing the headset was they wanted to break away from the good for a gaming headset quote that a lot of their headsets are given in reviews. So that means they're trying to be more versatile, they're trying to be good at music, movies, and gaming, and that's a big list of things to be good at, especially in a field so competitive. For comfort, the headset uses relatively thick foam padding to give you a sort of distance to your drivers, which is interesting, and we'll talk about in the sound section. And it uses the thick padding that you find in a couple of other headsets, so it is fairly comfortable once it's properly seated. The material covering that foam can be a little bit itchy at times, but it sort of works itself in and gets a bit more comfortable with age. But it does generally take me a couple minutes at the beginning of every gaming session to sort of move it around and get over that initial feeling. And speaking of moving it around, the headset does have a tendency to slide back a little bit on me, depending on where it's seated. It's always either forward or back. It doesn't really sit perfectly still. But again, after maybe the first 5 minutes of the gaming session, after I've fiddled around with it enough, it will mostly stay seated where I want it to. And this, I think, is a reflection of the shape of the ear cups. They're a little bit more rectangular and tall than some of the other headsets we've reviewed that stay seated a bit better. And because of the sort of weight distribution of the headset, that's why you get that sliding happening with the initial seat of the headset. But once it's seated, it's pretty good. Strictly in terms of fit, I prefer the way the Gamecom 780 fits on my head a bit better and stays seated, but they're vastly different headsets in terms of price point, aesthetics. This is a lot more advanced aesthetically, and sound output. So it's not a linear comparison in terms of products to buy, but in terms of products that I like the feel of, the Gamecom does get my vote for better comfort here. The foam pads that ship with the headset by default are more of a mesh, but you can get a leatherette foam pad coming in the future, and that will provide better sound isolation, so anyone who's traveling will get a benefit from that if you're on a plane or something like that. But it ships with these, and they are pretty easy to take off. The other item to note here, speaking of customization, is the side plates of the headset. You can actually, in theory, in the future, get a template for this and then 3D print your own design. So if you want to get rid of that logo or put your own logo on it or change how it looks, you should be able to do that in the future. That's not live yet, but it is in Logitech's plans. Logitech's G633 has enough power to be dangerous when it comes to gaming, and by this I mean that the headset is capable of producing tremendously immersive audio, but it requires a bit of an informed user. LGS, the software, could probably use better information conveyance in this regard, especially pertaining to the multiple DTS and EQ settings, better telling the user why they are there and what they do and in what scenarios those settings generally make the best sense. As far as the 3D setups, DTS Headphone X proves itself in games which better simulate a studio. So this would include cockpit-based racing games or space sim games. Dirt Rally and Star Citizen are excellent examples of both of these. In Dirt Rally, you can hear the gravel kicking up into the underside of the car really well, and the audio positioning changes as the camera moves about the car, which is something that Codemasters have done, of course, but Logitech's headset works with it very well. With the camera on the hood and lower to the ground, the gravel is louder and grittier, and the engine noise is more roaring. But as we move into the cockpit, more of the exhaust cans rattling can be heard, and you get sort of a Doppler effect as other cars pass you by on the track, which is definitely cool to hear. And of course, you hear this on any stereo headset, but it's amplified with DTS because it is tuning more specifically to bring out those sounds and give them more of a distinct pop. An example of a suboptimal use case for DTS and Dolby would be Counter-Strike Go. So using DTS, Headphone X, or Dolby in CSGO were actually detrimental to my gameplay ability. I was worse at pinpointing audio locations, and a lot of that is because the headphones with DTS or Dolby enabled will bring out a lot more of the environmental ambient noise when you're playing, and you don't want those things in CSGO. All you want is the most immediate threat. You want to be able to locate that threat, you want to hear the footsteps or the gunshot, and you don't want anything else. So Dolby and DTS will bring out, for example, the footsteps of your teammates behind you or the noises of the things behind you. And CSGO is a very linear, choke point styled game where you sort of know where all of the sounds should be, you know what time they should be there, and you know what you're looking for. With a game like Halo or Call of Duty, these technologies are actually useful, and a lot of the professional teams will use Dolby Surround in Halo or COD gaming at tournaments. And that's because those games are more circular, so the map sort of moves with gameplay. It's a bit more alive in that nature. Mic quality is pretty mediocre on the G633. I was definitely a bit let down by it, especially given the price point and the high-end engineering approach. It's vastly superior to HyperX's cloud mic quality, but it falls desperately short of what even the Plantronics Gamecom is able to produce. We've yet to find a quote-unquote gaming headset that exceeds Plantronics mic quality in the sub-$100, $150 price range, and that's because the Gamecom produces an output that's closer to the real voice of the user, whereas this Logitech G633 mic removes some of the natural resonance of a voice in its attempt at isolating input. And I think that damages quality overall. You lose a lot of the user's character when they're speaking into it. Put together a quick clip comparing my $400 professional input setup for field reporting, which is a Sennheiser MD46 reporter mic or something, and a Roland RO5 recorder. And that's compared against the Plantronics Gamecom 788, which is a $50 to $80 headset, the Logitech G633 $150 headset, and the HyperX Cloud, which is $70 to $100, depending on which option you buy. So have a listen to that. Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and I am presently demonstrating the microphone quality of a professional reporter mic. Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and I am presently demonstrating the output audio quality of the Plantronics Gamecom 788 headset. Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and I am presently demonstrating the microphone quality of the Logitech G633 gaming headset. Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and I am presently demonstrating the output audio quality of the Kingston HyperX Cloud 2 gaming headset. Talking about portability, the headset's not super well suited for travel. The profile is a bit larger than more travel-friendly, same cost audio solutions. But with some of those solutions, like the Audio-Technica stuff, you do lose the microphone. So that's sort of where you have to make a decision. If you're more concerned about portability and form factor than feature set, I would still recommend the HyperX Cloud 2 as my go-to travel option. It's fairly affordable, and it isolates the user substantially better for air travel. So if this is something you want to take on a plane and listen to your phone and then maybe plug in a mic on the other side to talk to your friends or whatever, then I would look at the Cloud. Talking about music, Dolby and DTS are hit and miss. It depends on what type of music you're listening to, how it's encoded, how well that encoding works with DTS if you're trying to use DTS. So looking at that, there's a lot of different items to take into account. I blind tested myself here, which I actually did for gaming as well. I found that DTS Headphone X did well for some types of music like Dream Theater. I have a 5.1 mixed Dream Theater album. It's very progressive instrumentation, and the native sound mixing coupled pretty well with DTS, so I did like it there and preferred it over both Dolby and having them both off. For bands like AFI, which is a lot more simple than Dream Theater's music, less complex music, I found that DTS diminished the volume and grit in vocals, which is something that you care about more in certain types of punk or rock, and they felt like they had less character to them. It's really hard to explain without just putting the headset on you, but it sounds like there's almost a little more tin to the voice. I don't want to use that word necessarily, but that's sort of the direction it's going when I'm talking about that. Even though I'm saying I wouldn't want to use DTS or Dolby necessarily for certain bands, certain types of music, that doesn't mean the headset's bad. It just means you turn those technologies off. The headset still produces a very good noise. It's got EQ options if you want more bass or if you want more treble, and it produces a solid noise for sure when you're listening, but you can just toggle those options off if you don't want them. So concluding everything, everyone pretty much knows that the audio industry is shrouded in all kinds of marketing BS. There's $1,000 cables that perform the same as much cheaper counterparts. There's all this marketing terminology that's confusing at best and misleading at worst. So it's a tough industry to work with. And when we're reviewing headsets, we have to take all the marketing into account and look at, does it perform what it's actually said it will do, and does it do it well? In the case of the G633, I think it does do most of what it says pretty well. The DTS support, as I've said a few times now, is good when it's good, and when it's bad, you just turn it off, and the headset has great native audio performance, so it's not a huge loss. The build quality is pretty good. It feels fairly solid. You can flex it a bit, as I'll show you here. It's got some good flex. It's not going to just snap if you bend it like that, so that does make it kind of okay for travel, but the one downside here is its profile is pretty large, so that's a lot of space to take up in some travel kits, but it does have the strength that you need if you're going to throw it around a bit. The headset feels a bit lightweight because it uses a lightweight construction, so if you want something heavier, then that's potentially not the thing for you. The ear cups are fairly meaty when it comes to the overall feel. They're big, but they're not necessarily heavy. And one interesting thing to note is that because of the extra width here, as you can see on the side of the headset, it's pretty wide. And because of that extra width, the drivers are spaced a tiny bit more away from your ear than in some other headsets. And I actually like that. I feel like it's less hitting me in the sides of the head. So it gives you some more depth of audio. Obviously, sound travels really fast. So are you going to notice a millimeter, 2 millimeters of difference? Probably not. But in terms of the sound actually having some spacing from your ear, it does feel a little bit less claustrophobic with the G633, which I like. I've never really liked Dolby Digital Surround in any environment, any headset. I didn't like it in the 780, 788. I don't like it here, but that's me. I know that pro gamers will use it in Xbox and PlayStation gaming. Not something I do, but I know that they use it in Halo and games like that. So there's obviously a market for it. I'm not a big fan, just put that out there, but DTS is executed pretty well. It's lacking in some games. It needs to certainly have audio that's encoded for it, audio that's compatible with it, game design that works with it. So sort of try it out. If you buy the headset, just toggle it, see if you like it. If you don't, turn it off. The headset offers a powerful audio experience by default without surround tech and works well for music and gaming almost equally. The EQ tuning is welcomed and well executed. You've got control over advanced settings for different frequency ranges. You can tune those. Comfort needs a lot of work on the G633. It's not terrible, but it's a little bit annoying the way it slides back on your head as you use it a bit. And I did test this on multiple people. It's just not my hair or something like that, adding 2 inches to the circumference. But I did test it with a couple of other people, and we all had this problem where it sort of slides back over time. It's definitely annoying, but as I said, throughout gaming, you kind of fidget with it, keep moving it a couple millimeters or half an inch, and it eventually finds a seat and stays there for the most part. There's a lot of competition at this price point, but not a lot of good competition at this price point. So to give everyone an idea of the environment for headsets right now, the Siberia V3 is priced pretty similarly. Certainly look into that. It's got the LEDs if you like LEDs. Corsair has its new Void headset, also an RGB LED headset, and that one's supposed to be pretty good. I haven't really used it enough to review it yet, but we're getting one soon and we'll talk about it then. Corsair Void, look into that. Other headsets would include the HyperX Cloud 2. That's a bit cheaper. It's closer to the $100 price point, but if you're trending that direction, it's worth looking at. Its mic quality isn't great though. It's worse than this. So that's a downside of the Cloud. The Gamecom 788, I keep saying it, but it is my favorite sub $100 headset. So if you're trying to spend less than $100, go grab that. Other than this, SteelSeries 9H is also worth looking at. The 9H, the Siberia, and the Corsair Void would be my main items that I look at when comparing against the G633. So check out reviews for all those headsets, look at the pricing, see what you like best. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer it either in the comments or in our next Ask a GN episode. As you know, we do those now. And that's all for this review. Check out the article for more details, how it was designed, how it works, things like that, my opinions. And hit that Patreon link in the post-roll video if you like this content, because it helps us a lot when we get direct support. So that's all for this time. I'll see you all next time.